Good evening to all of you. In Kent's lectures on philosophy, we are reading about oversensitive patients. Hahnemann in aphorism 46. Coming to the Hahnemann, in his 46th aphorism, gives examples of these natural cures. We occasionally meet with these cures now. We find patients that are threatened with phthisis go to the south because it has been proved that because it has been proved that such cases అక్కడి నుంచి చదవాలా There was a time in the early days of homeopathy when, taking into view the great array of disease forms to be contented with the very few medicines then at his command, the homeopath was worried to find them remedies similar to all of his cases. That cannot be true now. If the homeopath will work in a systematic way, he will be able to command enough of materia medica to meet all the diseases that he comes in contact with, the symptoms of which are sufficiently observed. Every man should put himself to the task of studying the materia medica. He has no time to lose, no time to fool away. The physician can really have no excuses at the present day to leave our proved medicines, the medicines that are recorded in our books. He can have no reasonable excuse for stepping aside into ways that are dark, treacherous, and recommended only by tradition. అవి వదిలేసి తనకి ఫేవరబుల్గా ఉన్న మెడిసిన్స్ ఏవో కొన్నే పట్టుకుని దాంతో ముందుకు వెళ్తానంటే రాకుండా బికాస్ దేర్ ఆర్ మెనీ రెమెడీస్ సో వీ హ్యావ్ టు పికప్ ది సిమిలర్ రెమెడీ. Some physicians hold that it is liberal to do anything for a patient. Some physicians hold that it is liberal to do anything for a patient. This is a pitfall, a rock that will destroy any physician that will not avoid it. We know that there are doctors who claim to be homeopaths who attempt to justify upon some ground or other the administration of remedies merely to palliate and relieve suffering. Only by giving palliation or temporary relief, they say that there is very good improvement. But what about permanent cure? That should be the aim. In every case, after getting improvement in the acute conditions, he should aim at the chronic remedies and miasmatic remedies. With such men, there must be a lack of sturdiness in listening to the sufferings of a patient. Exact, a patient hearing should be there from the doctor to hear, to know the sufferings of the patient. It seems to me that no one who is honest and who has knowledge of the stupidity that comes after the administration of medicine that will cause the symptoms to disappear will actually tie his hands against the finding of a remedy that will be suitable to cure. So after administering a remedy, if there is improvement in the patient, he will be sitting normally without searching for the exact remedy. Even after taking the case, he should know in which direction, in which way he should go. No doubt that he should administer an acute remedy for the acute condition, but he should not stop at that juncture. After getting the improvement from the acute condition, he should select before administering, if possible, before administering the acute remedy itself, he should select the chronic remedy and he should note down at a corner. And after getting improvement, he should administer. Otherwise, if he keeps quiet, he sits in a quiet manner. After getting some improvement in the acute condition, thinking that it is he has given an exact right remedy and the patient is improving, he may not improve after some extent. And also after 2 or 3 repetitions, there is the possibility of administering the chronic remedy also he will lose. As surely as the voice of the symptoms is hushed, so surely does the physician put off his way the opportunity for selecting a homeopathic remedy. When the index to the remedy is spoiled, the ability of the physician to benefit his patient is destroyed. If you give quinine, go on with it. If you give an opiate, go on with it. Do not go back into homeopathy. This man who does these things is a homeopathic failure. Definitely he is a homeopathic failure. Some men are incapable of grasping the homeopathic doctrines and fall into mongrellism, which is a cross between homeopathy and allopathy. I would prefer an allopath to one who professes to be a homeopath who does not know enough homeopathy to practice it. He should know the basics and also at least in the beginning he should know the basics. So first of all he should master the principles of homeopathy. Without mastering, if he takes a small therapeutic book and he go on practicing, he is not a homeopath. Definitely there will be a failure. Why should you put crude medicines upon the diphtheritic membrane in addition to giving your remedy? If the crude drugs do anything, they will spoil the appearance of the throat and you will not be able to know what remedy has done. So low potencies or crude remedies, if you go on giving, instead of getting improvement, the case gets complicated, and also after some time you will not be able to know with which medicine he got improvement and with which medicine there is a advancement of the condition and what medicine you have to give. The clarity of the case will be lost. If these adjuvants to the remedy do anything at all, they will affect such changes as will damage the case. If they do not affect changes, why use them? There can be no reason for administering something that does not affect the changes. Suppose the patient has a clear-cut symptoms in diphtheritic throat. He is having definite symptoms of either calcareous sulf or mercaptan, like that it is there. But instead of giving those remedies, instead of selecting those remedies, because it is diphtheria, if he gives diphtherinum 3x or 6 or 30, what is the use? He is not giving homeopathic remedy, he is giving remedy for the disease. Because the diphtherinum, if he is having symptoms of diphtherinum, then he can give. Huh? By the name only he is giving diphtherinum. In some places, I came across some cases when I was in Belgium and Switzerland. Some cases they have asked, when a patient is having some disease, why can't we take the substance of that disease and potentize, and why can't we give that medicine to the patient? Then I explained, it is isopathy, not homeopathy. It is also, the system is there, but in homeopathy it is not homeopathy. In homeopathy, the principle itself is completely different. One doctor recommended to use of peroxide of hydrogen in pus cavities. He said it did no harm, it did no damage. Aden cheyadu, damage em cheyadu, harm em cheyadu, parle vaadandi. Hydrogen peroxide. The question is, does it do anything at all? Huh? There can be no reason for administering something that does not affect changes. The question came up one time and created controversy in an association meeting. One doctor recommended the use of peroxide of hydrogen in pus cavities. He said it did no harm, it did no damage. The question is, does it do anything at all? If it does, the changes it affects injure the case. Lay it down as a rule that you will use nothing that can affect the changes in a case in addition to your remedy. After you prescribe a remedy, you want to know when you come back whether that remedy has done anything. After administering the remedy and before administering the remedy also, you should be able to know whether this remedy can do anything to the patient or not. After administering also, you should observe what happened, what has done this remedy. Is there any use to repeat or to maintain on that remedy? Like that he should be able to know. For this reason, you must rest your case upon that which you believe to be the nearest homeopathic remedy. All changes must be watched. All changes must be watched because by observing changes, we know what next to do. If something has been given by the patient's friends and changes have occurred in the case from such meddling, the doctor is in confusion. If we have administered one remedy, next day or next week, the friend of the patient, some other doctor is their friend. He says, I will give one dose. You take it, no problem. It will not disturb the case. You can take it. That is always a dangerous prescribing, especially in homeopathy. When we want to give a medicine, we should be able to know what medicine was given, what was the previous medicine given. Without knowing that, we should not give any medicine. Because there are some unequivocal remedies. One should not be administered. Suppose we have given the patient Merxal, and that friend of the patient has given Silesia. What happens? You cannot understand why it happened so after giving Merxal. Then slowly the patient says, yesterday my Last week my friend has administered some remedy. He said, no, no, it will not disturb the remedy which your doctor has given. How can he say? Then you can tell the patient, no, you continue with the doctor because he is a friend of you. He knows better than me about you. So you can continue with him. Then he requests, no, 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 I will not commit the same mistake further. You give some remedy. Then you have to explain the thing to the patient, and you should ask him to know the name of the medicine which the friend has administered. Because if there is any harm, how it happened, how the harm has happened, that we should be able to know. If absolutely no changes have occurred after his remedy, then he is in intelligence. He is in intelligence and knows what next to do. If absolutely no changes have occurred after his remedy, then he is in intelligence and knows what next to do. So when there is no change and nothing has happened, then you will be able to know what step you have to do. Another remedy you have to administer, or you have to wait, or you have to change, that you have to know. Doctors sometimes give opium to suppress pain, but it is more frequently given to suppress the cry of people that stand around listening to the patient. The friends stand there, wringing their hands and saying, "Doctor, can't you do something?" And the poor doctor loses his head and gives a dose of opium. And the patient is having acute suffering, and when the patient has acute suffering, and he will be crying and weeping loud, then they will instigate. Why can't you do anything to silence the patient?
ఈ పేషెంట్ అగ్రెసివ్గా ఉండి ఎలా ఉన్నప్పుడు మీకు పోయినంత చేసుకుని తట్టుకుంటాయి మీకు పోయినంత చేసి తట్టుకుంటాయి కదా
మందంటారు ఎలా చెప్తారు
బాగా ఇంకా సెడేటివ్ కొంచెం మైండ్లో ఒకసారి చెప్తే ఆలోచిస్తారు కానీ వ్యవస్థ అయిపోతాయి మనకి ఇవ్వడం
ఎందుకు కేసెస్లో కొన్నిట్లో ఇప్పుడు తగ్గింది కానీ నవేడేస్ ది థింగ్ ఈజ్ లెస్, బట్ ప్రీవియస్లీ in children when they are weeping more, the parents or grandparents, they used to give a little opium. కొద్దిగా వేస్తారా? To the children when they are weeping much, to avoid the disturbance, the parents, they will give a small dose of opium daily. Automatically they will sleep. But the result is their nervous system and their mental conditions will they become dull and benumbed. What does he do that for? In order to quiet the cry of the people. He knows he is damaging his patient. He knows he has put out of his hands the ability to cure the patient homeopathically. What if the patient does suffer? Can that be an excuse for the doctor destroying his power to heal the patient hereafter? So instead of curing, instead of selecting the correct remedy, only to make the patient silent or palliate, or to satisfy the attendants, you are giving opium. So what are you doing? The possibility of getting cure, that is being stopped. The doctor justifies himself by saying, If I had not done this, the people would have criticized me. What business is it of the people? So the doctor justifies his act. As I have done this, they did not criticize me, the attendant. If I did not give opium and pacify the patient, they would have criticized me. What business is it of the people? If a doctor has not the grit to withstand the cries of the family, the criticisms of the friends, the threatening of his pocketbook and of his bread and butter, he will not practice homeopathy very long. ఒక్క దాంట్లో కొట్టి పారేస్తాడు మొత్తం. అంత ధైర్యంగా నిలబడితేనే వాడు చాలా కాలం ప్రాక్టీస్ చేస్తాడు. సబ్స్క్రైబ్ చేస్తారు. ఇవాళ ఒక పెద్ద డాక్టర్ గారు ఒక ఆయన స్టేట్మెంట్ ఇచ్చారు వాళ్ళ పేపర్లో. హ్యానిమన్ గారు ఇవన్నీ కనిపెట్టగలిగాడంటే ఆయన కూడా సల్ఫర్ టెండెన్సీ ఉన్నవాడే. హ్యానిమన్ గారు, ఐన్స్టీన్, 3 ఎగ్జామ్ అంటే ఆయన టెండెన్సీ ఏమిటో బయటకి పబ్లిష్ చేశాడు ఆయన. ఎవడన్నా ఆయనకి ట్రీట్ చేస్తున్న హోమియో ఫిజిషియన్ ఉంటే మర్చిపోకుండా ఆయనకి సల్ఫర్ అయ్యారు. If a doctor has not the grit to withstand the cries of the family, the criticisms of the friends, the threatening of his pocketbook and of his bread and butter, he will not practice homeopathy very long. An honest man does not fear for these things. There is but one thing for him to consider. What is the right thing to do at his case? In his case, that is the one thing he must do. The harangue of the crazy old woman who stand around wagging their tattling tongues. What has that to do with the life of the patient or the duty of the patient or the duty of the physician? Will they shoulder the responsibility of the patient's death if he dies? ఈ రకంగా మాట్లాడిన వాళ్ళు ఎవరన్నా రెస్పాన్సిబిలిటీ తీసుకుంటారా కూడా పేషెంట్కి ఏమైనా అయితే అంటున్నాడు. I say now that the death of a patient is nothing in comparison with the violation of the law on the part of the doctor. In both instances, the doctor gets the worst of it. The doctor who violates the law also violates his conscience, and his death is worse than the death of the patient. Generally, the physician who has knowledge enough and grit enough to wait will see before the patient dies the homeopathic remedy that will control the case. The whole community is sometimes turned into excitement because a doctor will not do this or that. Lesser ratings of Kent. We are reading the chapter, the simillimum. The simillimum is the curative power that every true healer is in search of, and I take it for granted that every physician in his heart is searching for truth. Then it must appear to all unprejudiced minds that the name of a drug is no more the curative power than the name of a disease is the disease to be cured. As any given disease has an individuality in causes of varied intensity, so will its cure be in an antagonism of varied intensity. One drop of aconite root may cure the aconite mental picture in one person and fail signally in many, and and the 200 cure the case in a few hours. I would not say may unless I had seen the work. I had once under my care a patient whose symptoms were like those of sulfur. Yeah? As I had not advanced in knowledge, అది స్టడీ చేయాలి కదా, అది స్టార్ట్ చేయాలి కదా. ఎందుకంటే ఇది చదివేసాం, సల్ఫర్ 6x ఇచ్చాము, దాంతో ఇది కాకపోతే కొన్నాడు వేరే చోటుకి వెళ్ళిపోయాడు పేషెంట్, మళ్ళీ వస్తే సల్ఫర్ 55 ml ఇచ్చాను, అది చదివేసాం. So now we have to start this chapter. Already we have completed. We have to start the chapter, the study of our materia medica. The artist studies his model until he feels the lines and shadows, and in his mind sees the image on canvas or carved in stone. He builds a model and carves in granite the similar. The student of our materia medica must study a proving until he finds the image of the totality of sick feelings of all the provers, as if he had proved this remedy and felt all the morbid feelings of the prover. అంతేగా మరి. ఇప్పుడు ఒక ఇల్లు కట్టడానికి ప్లాన్ ఇస్తున్నాడంటే మైండ్లో వాడికి ఆ ప్లాన్ అంతా ఉండి దాన్ని డ్రా చేసి పేపర్ మీద దాన్ని అంతా ఇది చేసి రాయిస్తున్నాడు. అలాగే వీడు ఆ మొత్తం ప్రూవింగ్స్ అంతా కూడా చదివేసి హీ షుడ్ బి కంప్లీట్లీ థరో విత్ ది ప్రూవింగ్స్ ఆఫ్ ది రెమెడీస్, అండ్ ఆల్సో హీ షుడ్ ఫీల్ యాజ్ ది ప్రూవర్స్ who experienced the proving. He should be so much thorough with the proving. The doctor that prescribes for symptoms as they look on the paper fails to feel the weight of responsibility of the true healer. Only by seeing the symptoms upon the paper which he has written, if he prescribes for this only, he will not be a true healer. He fails. The physician that first places all the morbid feelings of his patient on paper and then ponders over that complexity of symptoms until he feels and sees what that patient suffers, and next searches the materia medica till he finds the same image, will be able to cure the sick as Hahnemann did. As Hahnemann did. That is the only method. This gives him the sphere of sicknesses either produced by disease or by drugs. This sphere is an important feature of the study of cure and sick-making causes. Through this study, we discover the sphere of action of aconite as it differs from sulfur, of belladonna as it differs from calcarea, of the natural successors, complements and inimicals. We may study pathology until the dawn of the 20th century. We may study pathology until the dawn of the 20th century, and it may not reveal what we need in the art of healing the sick. But the careful study of each picture of sensations may reveal to the student and artist the sphere of medicinal powers and curative possibilities. So the pathology that will not indicate the curative power, but the real things which will indicate the curative powers in the medicines and the patient, that we should find out. Some may study much longer than others to reach this mastery of a drug image, but study will bring out the picture in time. There are drugs that are largely proved, yet so badly proved that the true image has never been brought out. కొన్ని remedies they have very good provings, very large provings, many pages are there. But actually, the true proving was not achieved. The correct picture was not achieved. This is generally the case when man has meddled with the statements of the simple-minded lay prover. So they will, the lay provers, they will be reporting the symptoms in their language. So instead of putting that in their language itself, till he understands what is the sensation, what is the real symptom, he should write down in their language only. He should not convert their language into his own language. Then the proving will be confused. For that sake only, in case taking also, he advises, whatever the patient says, that you first note down. What is the language of the patient? If you are unable to understand, first of all, you write the same thing which the patient reports. Then you ponder over this, what is the expression of the patient. If it is needed once or twice, you ask the patient, what is your expression, what is your meaning about this? Then you can understand the meaning, in which meaning the patient has referred to this word. Then only you can come to a conclusion. For example, one patient used to come to me. Every time he used to say, I am getting chest pain. Much pain in my chest, he used to say. Every time I used to ask where, in which is the location. He used to show his abdomen and say, he was saying, I am getting chest pain here. So you can directly write that he is getting pain in the abdomen, not chest. But you should not criticize the patient and you should not blame. You are telling wrong, it is not chest, it is abdomen. Slowly you can explain, you can educate him. But in the first instance or second instance, you should not say. If you say like that, he will stop explaining the remaining symptoms to you. So, if necessary, what is the language of the patient? If you are unable to understand in a clear way in case taking, you directly write down. Then you can filter. Then you can understand. Then you can make it an exact picture. The language of nature cannot be interfered with if the proving is expected to be a guide to the cure of our fellow men. Modern provings are commonly a farce and will not lead to the elevation that Hahnemann's remedies sustain. So modern provings, after Hahnemann, the original prover, Hahnemann's followers and Hahnemann's provings, whatever they have explained, what they have elevated in the modern provings, that might be lost. The old masters knew how to do it. They were governed by the principles of the master. They were governed by the philosophy, and their provings will stand and forever be safe guides to the cure of all animals and man. Why? Because they honor the original principles of the master. They will work according to the principles of the master. They will not deviate from the principles of the master. Because of those things only, they are successful in their profession. The wrangle between the material and immaterial philosophers may end in some good. Both sides have truth, but to some extent perverted. Both sides evade the facts that oppose their own methods of reasoning and their own conclusions. Some will not accept a cure as a fact because it was made with an infinitesimal medicine. Some will not accept a proving because it has been made with infinitesimal doses. The actions of such men do not change the facts that exist, but they do retard the study of our materia medica. So according to their opinion, the exact picture which is there in the nature, it will not change. Because of their opinions, they cannot change the original thing. Either they can stop or again they have to follow the same thing. A proving that was made under my eye, under the proper rules for proving, demonstrated more carefully that real symptoms were produced by the 10 millionth potency of leukocytes. I had heretofore not believed it possible to procure some symptoms from this potency. The prover did not know that the dose was that she took. What the dose was that she took. She brought out one symptom as perfectly new, and it might be doubted as a genuine leukocyte symptom, but the fact that I had discovered the symptom several years before clinically and confirmed it and verified it. Such a symptom the prover did bring out, and such a symptom known to belong to the drug, and that in a very high numbers, removed all doubt in my mind of the possibility of procuring symptoms in such high numbers. So when there is one symptom produced by the remedy, by taking the remedy, when the same symptom is being produced in many provers, and when it is confirmed clinically, then we should understand that the symptom is definitely produced because of the medicine given. Now the lesser ratings of Hahnemann. In this also we have to start a new chapter. Suggestions for the prevention of epidemics in general, especially in towns. A well-ordered police should take care that rag gatherers are not allowed to live anywhere but in isolated houses near the paper mill, nor should they be permitted to have in any house in the town a place where they may deposit the rags by little and little, only to remove them when they have collected a large quantity. We should never be built close to towns and villages. Paper mills. Villages ki towns ke దగ్గరలో కాకుండా దూరంగా built చేయమన్నాడు. The regulations prevalent in electoral Saxony should be adopted, viz. That the rag gatherer should keep in the open street with his barrow or cart by some signal summon around him those who have rags to sell, and not remain in the town with his collection of rags, but go into the country, and when he puts up a country inn, leave his cart in the open courtyard or before the door of the inn, a word leaving it in the open air. In a word, leaving it in the open air. He should be forbidden under the penalty of imprisonment to pick out from his heap the rags and sell to others for their use any articles of clothing that may be still fit for wear. They should also be forbidden to wear such articles themselves or put them on their children, which they will often do to the great detriment of their health, as I have often observed. బాగున్నాయి కదా నా బట్టలు తీసుకెళ్ళి వాళ్ళ పిల్లలకు వేయడం వాళ్ళు వేసుకోవడం. I have seen a malignant epidemic of smallpox spread over the country from so doing. ఆ రకంగా చేయడం అన్నమాట. The paper mills should be so arranged that the supply of the crude rags should be kept in a well-ventilated building so far away from the dwelling houses, and the reception of the rags from the gatherer and the weighing of them in order to determine the sum he is to receive should be carried on in a shed only covered at top. The dealers in old clothes should only be allowed to carry on their trade in open shops and should not be permitted to sell them in their houses under penalty of imprisonment. అలా అమ్మితే జైల్లో పెడతామని చెప్పమన్నారు. అలా అయితేనే అవుతారు. All the linen and articles of clothing they have for sale in their shops should be previously washed, not excepting even the colored or woolen articles, and a police officer should be charged to examine if they are washed, who should overhaul the whole contents of the shop on undetermined days. Every article that he finds still dirty should become his property after having shown it to the inspector of police in the presence of the dealer. Should it be feared that such an article of clothing probably worn by a sick person might prove dangerous to the policeman, it should be considered that the poor broker, in order to avoid such a loss, will most certainly take care to have none but clean washed things in his shop, and thus the police agent will have little or nothing to confiscate. It should only be permitted to the burghers of the town to deal in old clothes. Jews engaging in this trade should be deprived of their letters of protection. Women found carrying it on should be put in house of correction. The civic crown merited by him who improves the prisons has been gained from us Germans by an Englishman, Howard Wagnitz follows his steps. It is inconceivable how often the most destructive vapors are concentrated in these dens of misery, fraught with death to those that enter them. How often their visitors are prematurely sent to the grave by fatal typhus. Destructive epidemic diseases often have their origin in these death-laden walls. ఏమేమి అబ్జర్వ్ చేశాడు ఈయన? వాడు ఎఫెక్ట్ కాకుండా మళ్ళీ వాడికి పోలీసులకి. Now, clinical materia medica by Farrington. Hepar develops in sepia. We are reading. Hepar develops a mood which it may not be inappropriate to consider. Sadness, unpleasant events return to mind. Sad in the evening, even with thoughts of suicide. Peevish, the slightest thing makes him break out into violence. He does not wish to see the members of his own family. But this latter condition is not quite the indifference of sepia. It arises more from a contrary mood, and further only Hepar has such violent outbursts of passion. Platina is similar in its depressed moods. Indifference. He does not seem to care whether his absent wife dies or not. But the digression is into haughtiness or into anxiety with fear of imminent death, or into that contracted mental state, akin to the feeling of the personal superiority, in which everything seems too narrow, with weeping mood. And besides, as we shall see anon, the uterine symptoms differ materially. Let us now consider the head symptoms of sepia. There is a disease of the head called hemicrania, for which sepia is one of our main remedies. The symptoms which indicate it here are the following. Pains over one eye, usually the left, of a throbbing character. Deep stitching pains, which seem to be in the membranes of the brain. The pains almost always shoot upward or from within outward. They are so severe as to extort cries and frequently culminate in vomiting. The paroxysms are renewed or aggravated by motion, light, noise, or by a thunderstorm, and are relieved by sleep or rest in a dark room. Usually with women, there are soreness of the face, uterine malposition, or disturbance of menstruation. We find too that the patient may have a jerking of the head backward and forward, worse while sitting and in the forenoon. This has been utilized in nervous women with hysteria, for instance, and also in children with open fontanelles. In these cases, you should not give sulfur calcarea or remedies of that type. Study these symptoms and you will find that the sepia is indicated. ఇలాంటి కేసుల్లో కూడా sepia is also useful in arthritic headaches, especially when, like those of Naxwamika, they are worse in the morning with nausea and vomiting. Arthritic headaches, one-sided headaches. The liver, of course, is affected and the urine is loaded with uric acid. In headache from brain fag, sepia is to be selected by its general cachectic condition. It is said to be particularly efficacious when a one-sided eruption has led to brain exhaustion. Compare natramur, naxwamika, sulfur and picric acid. In hemicrania, you may compare sepia with belladonna, sanguinaria, iris, pulsatilla, naxwamika, arsenic, theridium, silesia and thuja. Belladonna is to be selected in hemicrania when there are violent hyperemia with a throbbing carotids, red face, intolerance of the least jar, light or noise. It is indicated, you will see, in plethoric patients and not in the cachectic as with sepia. Sepia cachectic, belladonna plethoric. Sanguinaria produces a right-sided headache, the pains coming over from the occiput. They increase and decrease with the course of the sun, reaching their acme at midday. The paroxysms end with profuse urination, as in Silesia, Gelsemium and Veratrum album. They recur every 7 days. Sanguinaria also has a menstrual headache, which attends a profuse flow. In sepia, the menses are scanty. In sanguinaria, the pains are on the right side. In sepia, they may occur on either side. In Cantimeteria Medica, we are reading Valeriana. అయిపోయిందా వెలేరియానా? క్లాస్లో చదివా వెలేరియానా? చదవాలా? We have finished Valeriana in Cantimeteria Medica. Now we have to read in Clark. క్లాస్లో కూడా చదివేసామా? చూద్దాం. క్లాస్లో కూడా అయిపోయింది. So now we will read another remedy. ఏం చదువుదాం? Cyclamen. Cyclamen and Cancer medica. Aversion to motion, yet motion ameliorates her pain and uneasiness. Aversion to the open air, yet open air ameliorates some symptoms. Hysterical, especially coryza and cough. The marked dullness of the senses and special senses is a striking part of this picture. Chlorosis, irregular menses, and palpitation. Stitching pains, weakness and aggravation from exertion, flabby muscles, most symptoms ameliorated by walking, very restless at night, great lassitude, weakness in the evening, ameliorated by moving about, sensitive to cold and cold air, complaints from being overheated, alternations of moods is a striking feature of the mental state. Great flow of ideas alternates with weak memory. అన్ని peculiar ఏంటో. Joyous feeling alternating with irritability. Serene humor changes suddenly into serious or peevishness. అందుకే తీసుంది ఇది కూడా చాలా హిస్టీరికల్ రెమెడీ ఇది కూడా. నక్సుమాస్చట, మాస్కస్, వెలేరియానా, సైక్లామెన్ ఇవన్నీ. Grief and fear keep her in continuous mental agitation. Dullness of mind prevents mental labor. Absorbed in thought, seeks solitude, thinks about the future, answers incoherently, confusion of mind, aversion to work and dread of open air, wants to remain in a warm room and in solitude, remains a long time silent, excitement with trembling, sadness as if she had wronged somebody, like Aramet, tearful and meditates upon her grief, which is only imaginary. Grief అంతా కూడా ఇమాజినరీ, అక్కడ యాక్చువల్గా అక్కడ కారణం ఉండదు. Thinks she is alone in the world and persecuted by everyone. అందరూ తను ఒంటరిదాన్ని చేసేసారు. Obstinate and censorious, she grows steadily weaker. Fainting spells come on. She becomes pale and anemic. These symptoms are important if associated with scanty menses or amenorrhea. Vertigo when walking in the open air. Objects turn in a circle. Ameliorated in a room when sitting. Everything turns dark before the eyes and she falls as if fainting. చాలా నీరసం వచ్చి కడుగురి పడిపోతారు. ఈ హిస్టరికల్ రెమెడీస్ అన్నింటిలో చాలా వాటిలో ఉంటుంది. నాకు మోస్టెటాలో ఉంటుంది, ఇగ్నీషియాలో ఉంది, హ్యాస్టామ్స్లో ఉంది. The pain in the head is stunning and makes her fear she will lose her senses. Boring, darting, pressing in forehead and temple. Violent pains in the forehead. Pains worse lying on painful side or back. Pains one-sided. Pain morning and evening, ameliorated by vomiting. Worse by motion and in open air. Obscure vision with the pain. Pressure in vertex as if brain were enveloped into a cloth, which would deprive him of his senses. Headache with flickering before the eyes on rising in the morning. Pulsating in the head. Rush of blood to the head. Anxiety and confusion of mind. Obscuration of vision. Vertigo. General coldness after dinner. Headache ameliorated by cold application. Headaches from disordered stomach. Head feels as if he had on a skull cap. He had a skull cap. Tearing pains in the scalp. In the field of vision, there are spots, fog, bluish colors, flickerings, glittering objects, various colors, now yellow and again green, Fiery sparks, smoke, halo around the light, black specks or flies. Dimness of vision, diplopia, convergent strabismus, dilated pupils, hemiopia, heat and burning, lids and edematous. These are edematous. Lids and edematous. Lids. Swelling of upper lids, dryness and itching of lids, dim vision during headache, impaired vision, smell, hearing and taste, dullness of hearing, humming, ringing and roaring in the ears, drawing pains, sense of smell diminished, dryness in the nose, dry or fluent coryza, worse in a warm room, better in the open air or cool room, sneezing and watery discharge in a warm room, entirely relieved in the open air. Walking in the cold open air is his most comfortable pastime. Pressing pain over the nasal bone during coryza. అలా ఓపెన్ ఎయిర్లో చక్కగా నడుస్తూ ఉంటే ఎంతో హ్యాపీగా ఉంటుంది. పల్స్లా ఫాస్ఫరస్ వాళ్ళలాగా చక్కగా స్లోగా నడుస్తూ ఉంటే వాడికి అదే ఫాస్ట్ మూవింగ్ ఒక వెహికల్లో ఫాస్ట్గా వెళ్ళిపోతూ ఉంటే హ్యాపీగా ఉంటుంది. నైట్రిక్ యాసిడ్ ప్రెస్ రైడింగ్ అనే క్యారేజ్. Pressing pain over nasal bone during coryza takes cold from being overheated and from overheated rooms. Pale, sickly face, dark under eyes in women, contracted forehead, a frown, dry lips, numbness of upper lip, boring, stitching, tearing in the teeth, jerking in the teeth at night. Taste is lost or perverted, flat, bad, putrid, rancid. All food tastes too salty. Tongue white or yellowish. Burning blisters on tongue. Saliva increased. Burning tip of tongue. Saliva tastes salty. Viscid mucus in the mouth. Burning dryness and scraping in the throat. Loss of appetite and even aversion to food. Thirstlessness except in the evening during fever. Desires lemonade, nitric acid, belladonna, sebina. Aversion to bread and butter and fatty things, but desires inedible things. Disgust for meat, craves sardines, satiety after the first mouthful, lycopodium, and then he loathes food. Stomach weak, nausea after eating, pork disagrees. The stomach symptoms are much like pulsatilla. Symptoms worse after coffee, vomiting after eating, vomiting in the morning, vomiting watery mucus, eructation, aching in the stomach and burning in esophagus. Better by walking about. Fullness as if he had eaten too much. Weight in the stomach after eating. Stitching pains in the stomach. Colicky pains in the abdomen ameliorated by walking about. Tenderness all over the abdomen, even hypogastrium. Gnawing pains in the evening. Gnawing pains after food. Rumbling and gurgling in the abdomen. Paroxysmal cramps during the night, ameliorated by walking about. Stitching pains in the abdomen and liver. Diarrhea after coffee. Diarrhea in chlorotic women subject to sick headaches and menstrual irregularities. Watery, forcible stool, odorless, brownish yellow. Diarrhea in the evening. Constipation, stool hard. Nausea, colic before stool, colic and urging after stool, hemorrhoids that bleed, drawing, pressing pain about the anus as if a spot would suppurate, frequent urging to urinate, ineffectual urging to urinate, urine profuse, watery, flocculent sediment, indescent cuticle, stitching in the urethra with the desire to urinate. In the male, the sexual desire is diminished. Irritable prostate gland, with stitching pains, urging to stool and urine, Nakswamika. Menses too soon or too late, irregular or suppressed, copious, prolonged or scanty. When profuse, the mental symptoms are better, flow black and clotted, labor-like pains at the menstrual period commencing in the small of back and running down each side of the pubis, uterine hemorrhage, dread of open air, menses suppressed, palpitation of the heart, weeping, aversion to company and dread of open air, rush of blood to the head and scanty flow, suppressed menses from overexertion or being overheated, fainting at the menstrual period, after menses, milk in mame, complaints after weaning, China, much scraping in the larynx at night, thick white mucus, tickling in the larynx and the trachea, oppression of chest, suffocative cough caused by scraping and dryness in the trachea. Cough comes on during sleep from dryness and constriction of larynx. Cough ameliorated in the open air and even in a cold wind. చల్లగా ఉన్నా కూడా వాడికి ఓపెన్ ఎయిర్లో ఎమ్యూలేషన్. Pressure in the middle of the sternum, weakness in the chest, stitching in the chest and heart, tearing, stitching and shortness of breath during motion and rest. Palpitation and anemic murmurs, tumultuous action of the heart, great lassitude, weak pulse, sensation as if air streamed from nipples, mammae swollen, containing milk in non-pregnant woman, mammae swollen and very hard after menses, drying pains in the neck with stiffness, twinges of the back ameliorated by drying the shoulders back, stitching in the region of the right kidney, worse during inhalation, pain in the small of the back while sitting, seizures on rising, tearing or drying pains in the limbs, hyperesthesia of the skin, flabby muscles, tearing or drawing in the upper limbs, sensation of weakness of the hands, as if she must let fall what she holds in her hand, writer's cramp, drawing pains in flexors of the leg, burning sore pain in heels, toes feel dead after walking, weakness in the limbs, sleep not restful, disturbed by anxious dreams, frightful vivid dreams, restless sleep, late falling asleep, wakens early but wants to sleep late, nightmare, wakens early but too tired and sleepy, cannot rise, pollutions in dreams, chill, fever and sweat, chill not ameliorated by warm clothing, chilliness during menses, chill forenoon or evening, chill predominates in the evening, heat of face follows chill, chill and heat alternate, sensation of heat through the whole body, particularly in face and hands, heat with swelling of the veins, China, general heat after eating, sweat at night during sleep offensive, sweat sometimes on lower part of the body, itching at night in bed, numbness after scratching or changing places by scratching. దీంట్లో కూడా ఇగ్నీషియాలో లాగా ఆల్టరేషన్ ఏదైతే వాడికి ఇష్టం లేదో అదంటే మళ్ళీ ఎమ్యూలేషన్ ఉండడం. In Clark, we will read next time about cyclamen. So this is for today. Thank you. स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तः न्याय्येन मार्गेण महीम् महीषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यम् సుఖినో భవంతు. లోకా సమస్తా సుఖినో భవంతు. లోకా సమస్తా సుఖినో భవంతు. ఓం శాంతి శాంతి శాంతి. వాసుదేవ వాసుదేవ వాసుదేవ.